Welcome to Grounded Guidance, the casual space for conversation with curiously intuitive minds as we explore fascinating topics that stretch our edges to think differently, live aligned with the pathway we are choosing each day, and propel us to move through life with a new lens on the world. Each week, we will explore in this space ideas that may challenge conventional thinking, encourage us to be intentional with our thoughts and actions, and grow through conversation with each other and with you. Join us.
Ooh, all right.
Have a smooth entrance.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Great. I don't feel like we had any hiccups tonight. Oh my gosh, knock on wood.
Mr. Movies, you look like you are ready for this conversation. I love it.
Yeah, is it because of the cowboy hat?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I have nothing to add tonight other than
okay, all right. Well,
other than the cowboy hat.
I was thinking it would have been cute if we all had cowboy hats when we started, but
yeah, we didn't plan that very well.
Yeah, what's your guys' excuse?
Missed opportunity.
Right.
Dang.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're glad you're here.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with our new segment, The Weird, Wonderful, and Wise, before we get into Deadwood, South Dakota. Who wants to start?
mine's not like super exciting, so maybe we'll start with mine and then we'll just keep escalating.
I don't think it has to be super exciting.
Setting the bar high. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start low. Mine was just like a dream, a reoccurring dream that I've had several times throughout my life. And maybe you guys can help me like understand why I keep having it. But I have this dream. For anybody who doesn't know, I'm a wedding videographer, and I show up at the wedding, and I can't find my equipment. Everything is like out of order, like all my stuff, and then I have to use my cell phone to shoot the wedding.
Oh, that's awful.
And it's usually like the same menu every single time.
That, I feel like, is a common reoccurring dream.
Yeah.
Like, mine is always, I am supposed to go to a softball game. I'm supposed to go to a softball game, and I forgot my mitt and my glove, or I forgot my mitt and my pants or something, right? And so then I'm like scrambling to try and figure out how I'm going to find a mitt. And I end up, so I think that's a pretty common one in different contexts, obviously.
I mean, it's like the most anxiety-filled dream I ever have, but yeah.
So what do you think it means?
Yeah, feeling unprepared, lack of preparation in your life, lack of, there's a theme there.
I feel like I try to be extra prepared now, so
it's good. It's helping then, right?
I have a wedding.
You always pack 2 cameras.
Yeah. Actually, that happened to me at a wedding one time, though. Both of my cameras broke during the ceremony, and I had to pull out my cell phone.
Oh, so this actually did happen.
This happened like when I first started years ago, but
wow.
I guess it's still this traumatic to me. It haunts me to this day.
I mean, cell phone cameras are really good these days. So, as like a third backup to your backup, I feel like it could be a lot worse.
You might have to give them a discount.
Yeah. I didn't notice in the final, like the end product, but I felt very unprofessional walking around with it.
Yeah, I'm sure you looked pretty unprofessional.
Oh my gosh.
I got it, you guys.
You have to turn it sideways.
Sideways.
If you were doing vertical, then you looked really unprofessional. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It's the first sign of an amateur videographer doing vertical video.
All right, well, that's my excitement. So.
Okay, Mr. Movies. Do you have anything weird, wonderful, wise to share this week?
It was weird how many splits I threw bowling Friday night.
Really?
Splits? Like your legs?
It's not that weird.
You know what bowling is?
Are you a good bowler? Maybe this isn't so weird.
He's not a good bowler.
I would have wanted it both of me splits, and then this lady over here was getting so many lucky
spares. I pick up a spare.
And then the next throw, she would throw it horrible. She'd hit like 2 or 3 pins, and somehow she'd get like 6. So the spares were just getting bonus pins added to them.
He throws the ball extremely hard straight down the middle, thinking, oh, the harder I throw it, the more the pins are going to explode, and they'll knock each over.
They should have.
Over. But he doesn't understand that the harder you throw it, sometimes the more they go up and avoid hitting each other.
Yeah, that's true.
So sometimes there's, a little bit of technique involved.
She also threw like 2 gutter balls. I didn't throw any.
I threw 1 gutter ball, and it was my very first throw. I was warming up. And if you recall, I still beat your ass.
I know, because you got lucky, and I got unlucky.
I know, she texted everybody about it. That was the best part.
Yeah, I had to...
She was pretty proud of herself. Nice.
Well, he kept... Because we bowled on our very first date, and I beat him then, and he kept saying that he let me win. I let her win on our first date. I didn't want to embarrass her. No, he didn't let me win.
I also wasn't trying Friday until I noticed that she got a spare. So I was like, I better start trying. And then I threw a strike. Right after that.
We're in the last frame, and he's like, oh, God, she just got a spare. Like, how are you doing so well? I'm like, I don't throw it that hard. I can't throw it that hard.
Yeah, maybe that's your technique. Maybe that's your winning, technique.
I was proud of myself
brute strength.
At the arcade there, though, I won us lots of tickets by playing Wheel of Fortune. So the girls got some nice little toys.
Oh, the wonderful.
All right, Mrs. Movies, what about you?
Oh, boy, he covered it,
All right, cool. Okay, couple of things. A couple of episodes ago, we talked about Faraday cages. Do you guys remember? For those of you that don't remember, this is...
you
might not have been. Yeah, you might not have been. So a Faraday cage is something that it's really not a cage. I don't like the name cage, but it's this fabric that blocks radiation or interference. And a lot of people use them when they sleep to protect from things bothering you in the night. I didn't buy it. I've looked into this a lot. I didn't buy it for myself, but I did buy it for my cell phone. I bought a little Faraday cage for my cell phone.
Little Faraday pouch. Cute.
Yeah, I wanted to show you this because so many people put that on their nightstand when they sleep. And it bothers me so much to think about all of the radiation coming off your phone. So I tuck it in my little pouch before I go to sleep.
Do they make blanket-sized ones of those?
They do, yeah. And you can put them over your router, and you can put them over anything that emits a signal.
Oh, yeah. I shared a link with Karen not too long ago. Where it's like a bed net, like a mosquito netting, but it's made out of silver.
Yep. Yeah.
And it goes around the whole bed. So you have essentially a whole Faraday cage around your bed.
Yeah. Yes. I my tinfoil hat. So.
Yeah, they sell all sorts of different products. But I started with this, and I have noticed deeper sleep. There's not a
really
interference. Yep. That's interesting. But it also blocks any sort of alarm that you need to set or anything. So fair warning.
No.
Fair warning, okay?
Gotta go back to the digital.
Okay, one other thing I wanted to share. In broad daylight, over top of my house, when I was coming home, I saw what looked like, I don't know what it was. It looked like this glowing silver disc. It looked round, and I was like, oh, that's odd. I've seen UAPs before. Broad daylight, bright sunshine. And then it kind of turned and looked like it disappeared, but it was reflecting differently. And I got my phone out to take a picture. Boom, gone.
It's gone.
Could not figure it. No airplane, nothing. Some sort of UAP.
Fun.
Yeah.
UFOs,
so, anyways.
They're out there.
Yeah, they are.
Jamie, yes, it would protect electronics from an EMP. Yeah. I think if it's keeping waves from getting out, then it's keeping waves from getting in also. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing, the next place I want to buy it for is my router in my home, because there's a lot of radiation that comes off your router. So
what if you wrapped your house in that? Like you put Tyvek on your house?
I'm thinking about that actually.
Underneath your siding.
You just
Or
wouldn't
you
be
can
able
buy
to use
clothing.
anything in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to have your Wi-Fi inside.
Well, I've seen the ones for a router where it'll cover like the router, but not the little antennas.
Antenna.
Yeah. So kind of cool.
Well,
Right.
what be better?
Yeah, I mean, who knows if that's what it is, but it's worth it.
Hey, even if it's placebo, whatever.
Yeah, right. I mean, so cool. All right, let's talk about Deadwood, South Dakota. This is kind of fun. I'm curious in the chat, has anybody been to Deadwood, South Dakota? I've been to Deadwood, South Dakota years ago. You have not?
Nope.
Anybody
I have.
Here? You have.
Mm-hmm.
I have not.
I was young.
Yeah.
We were just talking last week about going on a family reunion there, so I felt like
That's actually what we went there for a family reunion. So
really good spot for families.
Yeah, it's kind of
like
cool.
really close, like within driving distance of a lot of national parks and national monuments and things like that.
It is. It's like centrally located, and then if you have family kind of all over, it's a good place to kind of descend on. We stayed in Lead, which is just like a bordering town of Deadwood. But Deadwood's kind of a neat place. So what is so neat about Deadwood? The reason I think, well, we'll get into what it is, but the reason I think it's so spectacular is I'm kind of a history buff, a closet history buff, but I think it holds like such an important place in our history and American history. It holds a big part of the Wild West history. It was established in 1876 when thousands upon thousands of gold prospectors kind of moved into the area thinking they were going to get rich. But the town wasn't even actually established. Like it wasn't an official town at that point. There was just people that moved into the area. And they just set up tents and literally moved into the hillside and eventually moved into building brick and mortar businesses. But these people were gold miners. A lot of people, just rough and tumble, shady people moving into Deadwood.
Yeah, it was like a lawless town, huh?
Really, yeah, very much so. There was no established town because in the Black Hills of South Dakota, which is where Deadwood is, was owned by the Lakota tribe. Not owned, sorry, the Lakota tribe. I guess they owned the land, right?
Yes. Yeah. The Fort Laramie Treaty
gave
the Black Hills the Lakota tribe in 1868.
Correct. And the interesting thing about Deadwood is there was no jurisdiction when people moved into Deadwood. There was just such a huge rush because of the prospect of gold in this area that they just moved in regardless of the Lakota people, having jurisdiction over this land. So it created a lot of major tension in the area. What's really interesting about this area that I just was so astounded by is just think about this for a second. In July of 1876, which is really when Deadwood was founded, $1 million worth of gold was found in this area at $20 an ounce. Okay. Oof. Today, that same amount of gold in 1 year that they found would be worth $98 million.
Wow.
$98 million. I mean, no wonder people were so ravenous for finding gold, right? I mean, when you look at the dollars back then, it's like, that's not that much money. But then when you put it in today's dollars and there's a potential of making a decent amount of money, when you think about it, in 2022, the average cost of living was the average salary was about $70,000. You would need to only find 36 ounces back then
Oh, jeez.
To make a living. I mean to make that salary.
I watched
Incredible.
the movie, which kind of ruined the show because you should definitely watch the show before you watch the movie.
Oh yeah, the movie was
You
made a
watch the
couple years
movie
ago.
first.
I had more time for the movie, but they were selling like property for $2,500. I'm like, that's 1 month rent these days.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's really incredible.
Gold closed today at $1,985 an ounce.
Yes. Yeah, that's where I got those numbers. That's how I calculated that. I looked at how much it was in an ounce today. So, as these prospectors came into town, they were mostly male. And so many different saloons, gambling establishments, dance halls, brothels were all things that were set up in this area quickly. And within a very short amount of time, there were, 12 to 15,000 people living in this tiny little town.
Well, yeah, miners and loggers. The first thing you have to establish is a bar and a brothel, right? Like there are no other options. Those are the first two necessities.
A bar and a brothel, yeah. But what's interesting, Berly, can you put up the slideshow, please?
Here's the show.
So here's a picture of what Deadwood looks like, kind of modern day. You'll see that it's really like kind of tucked into the base of the Black Hills here.
It's a gulch.
It is, yeah. And a lot of the first, let's go to the next picture.
Is this where Buffalo Bill was buried?
Not Buffalo Bill, Wild Bill Hickok.
Wild Bill Hickok.
Yeah.
Different.
Buffalo Bill, yeah. Okay, so here's an interesting look. So when they first came in, you have to remember that there was no like brick and mortar anything. These were tents, these were cabins, these were just whatever they could find. And the interesting thing about Deadwood is it was really built in this gulch with trees on either side. There wasn't much, and there was a lot of people, a lot by how big this area was, which wasn't very much.
It was something like 5,000 to 10,000 people came in for the gold rush, right?
Yeah, I had heard upwards of 25,000 people.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, at some point, they say that it was so incredibly dirty. All that just
everything back then was
right. Yeah, I think
it was. Yeah, because there's so much dirt and no clean water and
Not a good.
Can you imagine?
System.
No.
Can you imagine these pioneers? Whoo.
Yeah, I think it's so fascinating. So, anyways, Deadwood attracted a lot of really interesting characters, a lot of very prominent names along the Wild West scene. But this is kind of the picture back in the day. What you see of Deadwood modern day is really, it doesn't look anything like this. But it's interesting to look at these, kind of founding pictures right in the heart of Black Hills.
Hashtag bring back brothels. Thanks,
okay,
Albert.
Well, we're going to get into that because I am really super fascinated about that conversation. Not necessarily the brothels, but the conversations about women.
They were around for a really long time. I'm excited.
They were,
till
1980
too,
in Deadwood, yeah, which is just really, really fascinating. So, another really interesting part about this is George or Colonel Custer, George Custer. He
General.
was, did I say that? I say Colonel. You're right, General. Yeah, you're right.
Get his rank right, damn it.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. I think he was a colonel. Well, I think he was a colonel at one point.
It's Colonel Mustard. General Custer.
Wow. Thank you for correcting me, you Clue fans. Okay. So General Custer was one of the people that led an expedition into the Black Hills and really was one of them that announced the discovery of gold. But this was in present day Custer, South Dakota. I'm curious how many people have been to Custer, South Dakota, and the Battle of Little Bighorn. There's a really cool battlefield there where you can visit. It's a national monument now. But what happened?
Yes.
You have been there? Yes, I've been there as well. It is very paranormal. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot happening there. But what's interesting about this is he was pretty confident, when he was General Custer was pretty confident about his move into all of these different territories where a lot of the land was governed by the natives, about his ability to take over, which happened with the move west, a lot of these different areas. But at this area, they were greatly outnumbered and lost and defeated by the Lakota, the Cheyenne, and the Arapaho tribes, and 200 and some U.S. forces ended up dying at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Oh. So, anyways, that's also in that Dakota territory. There's a lot that happened in here, all when the gold mining was kind of becoming really big. People were really looking for, a new life, a new way of living, the chance to be prosperous. I mean, isn't that kind of the American dream? Like the chance. I mean, like you really think about that.
That's a pioneer spirit for you. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's kind of cool. One of the things I read about Deadwood that I think is fascinating is they had, so if you think about this, 12,000 people 12,000 people lived in this town. They had a murder a day. A murder a day, you guys. I mean, that's a lot in a town that's bigger. That is a lot in a town this size.
It's a drunk old miners, just right? Like probably just dinking around, wasted, and shooting each other when they get pissed off. Like it's just no law and order at all.
No, there was no. Yeah, this was a lawless town. There was no order. Not for a little while. There was eventually, but when they first set up camp, I mean, can you imagine? They'd be taking their rifles out there, looking for these different prospecting in these different areas, and probably having shootouts when people would be in their little territory. I would imagine it was just quite bloody in some respects.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the next picture. Oh, this is the okay. Let's go to the next one.
Oh yeah, Rick said arguing over fraudulent state claims was probably commonplace.
Yeah,
that's between the alcohol and the people just arguing about whose spot they were in. I imagine people were just annoying.
Yeah. So one of the main characters. I don't know how many of you have seen the Deadwood series. I have not. But one of the people that came to Deadwood, actually the day before Wild Bill Hickok was shot dead. So Wild Bill Hickok, a very big, prominent character in the Wild West, came to Deadwood, was Seth Bullock. And this is the Bullock Hotel. The one on the left is in the late 1800s. And then the one on the right is as it stands today. So he came to Deadwood. Seth Bullock came to Deadwood. He was a frontiersman, a proprietor, a politician, a sheriff, and a U.S. Marshal. And he really came to bring law and order to Deadwood, which I think is interesting because it was just
started as the owner of a hardware store.
Yeah, and that's what he brought that in. Yes.
Yeah, and it stood in that spot, but was then later burned down. So
yeah, so if you go back one slide, that is what this Star and Bullock is. That is the hardware store that stands where the Bullock Hotel is now.
So how do you think you become a sheriff in a lawless town? Do you just walk in and say, "I'm sheriff"?
That's that is a really, I think it's a certain personality type. He came in, so he was elected to, so Bullock was elected to the Territorial Senate, where he served for 2 years prior to coming to Deadwood. And he was actually the front man in helping create Yellowstone. So he had some experience with kind of
He was a bit of
running
a politician.
He was, yeah. The interesting thing about this is a lot of people speculate he never met Wild Bill Hickok, but a lot of people speculate that if they would have met, things may have looked a little different, because Wild Bill Hickok was Wild Bill Hickok. He was a wild man. But Seth Bullock came in. He demanded respect. He made his presence quickly known, and he brought order to the town that then established themselves as Deadwood, South Dakota. So him and this gentleman by the name of Soul Star created this hardware store. And that's how they kind of established their wares in Deadwood. There was a need for a lot of this with so many people living here. Not just brothels. that's one industry, but they still needed, hardware and the things in a hardware store to build their
growing town.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about the hotel, because this is like one of the only things I really
the Bullock Hotel. Yeah.
got some info on.
Yeah, about it being paranormal and the ghost stories. Yeah, let's talk about it. What did you learn?
Well, I listened to a podcast, and I think I heard them correctly. Right? They said that the hotel sits on a ley line.
Oh, I had not heard of that.
I did a whole bunch of research trying to find any sort of information about Deadwood or South Dakota sitting on ley lines at all, and I could not find any information about that. So that's interesting.
I think there's something to that, though, because the town has burned down, you guys, 3 times. 3 times! Like, there's something happening energetically here.
Yeah, can you explain again what a ley line is for anybody who doesn't know? Like,
yeah, energetically, where certain magnetic points in the earth meet and can create a lot of pronounced energy. So places like the pyramids are on a ley line. Stonehenge, yeah.
I think
Mount Shasta.
I mean, lots of things burned down in those days because
they did. I know they did.
I mean, everything was made of wood initially, right? So huge fire hazard. Also surrounded by forest, right? No electricity.
Everything was by candle, right?
Yeah, fire for lighting everything and warming everything. I just feel like that is just bad luck because
it burned down because it was stove store.
No, it was actually the first fire was started in a bakery.
Oh,
that's too practical for me. I would like something a little more like, I don't know. It just seems a little too suspicious that there was everything I read. There was a fire. The town is not anything like what it was. Everything has been rebuilt. It just seems really suspicious, but your practical way of looking at things makes the most sense.
I mean, just the time frame, the time frame and the circumstances, like everything burned down in the 1800s because everybody was using fire as a heating source and a lighting source. True. And everything was made of wood.
And you had to run to the well with a bucket to put out the fire.
Yeah, exactly. Fire suppression wasn't a thing because there was no fire departments, right?
Before they had the
no running
structures, they were in tents. So I'm curious, did the fire ever run through when there were tents set up? Like we're talking like big army tents that they came in to set up before they had brick and mortar anything. It's just really interesting. But anyways, let's talk about the paranormal Bullock Hotel.
So I hope this is story time. I hope you have some good stories. Because the ones that I learned, they all got debunked. So,
well, so this was the hotel built on the same location as the hardware store. It still stands. I've been in it. They have ghost tours there every night. I did not do one. I wanted to do one, but I didn't. It was with a group of people that weren't interested. So, according to both staff and guests, all manner of strange occurrences have happened at this hotel. Many have reported strong paranormal presence inside several rooms in the second and third floor hallways, in the restaurant, and in the cellar. Others have reported seeing a tall, ghostly figure of Bullock in various areas of the hotel, including the restaurant and the basement. And apparently, Seth's ghost really wants to ensure that the staff is working hard. Paranormal events tend to increase when staff members stand idle, whistle, or hum a tune. Plates and glasses have been known to shake and take flight in the restaurant. Lights and appliances turn on and off by themselves. Unseen hands inexplicably move items, and showers turn on seemingly on their own accord. Many guests have reported hearing their name called out by a male voice when no one is present, or tapped on the shoulder by unseen hands. In both the second and third floor rooms, guests have reported several strange occurrences, including photographs that produce strange anomalies, alarm clocks that go off even when they are unplugged, televisions that seemingly operate with unseen hands, shadowy figures seen in rooms and hallways, and even an antique clock that hasn't functioned in years that chimes to its own accord.
That one got debunked. Anything I listened to.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. The bells are like still activated in the alarm or whatever, the clock, and if the room moves in a certain way, it'll like make, or a vibration happens, it'll make the bells like hit each other.
Yeah, that's happened, Mrs. Movies, to our clocks that we have. Like, I haven't wound my clock in years, and then all of a sudden it'll start.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm like, what is happening? And I thought it was
Granddad's clocks?
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like every once in a while it dings, but I always just figure it's Granddad saying hi, like, hey, just dinging your bell.
Just dinging your bell. Cute.
One of the other interesting stories is parents that were staying at the hotel with their young son could not find him. They were frantically searching the hotel, and they returned to the room to find the boy happy and healthy. He told them that he had left to get a soda but got lost, but a nice man helped him find his room. And when the family went to check out the next morning, the boy identified the helpful man by pointing to a portrait of Bullock on the wall.
Oh, that's sweet. I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
All over.
He's a good guy.
He's a nice guy. He's just trying to make sure shit's running smooth,
Yeah. He was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was kind of a noble, honorable guy that really kind of brought order to a very wild town. Let's talk about Wild Bill Hickok. What do you guys know about him?
He got shot in the back of the head when he was playing poker, but he normally never sat like with his back facing the door, and he just so happened to that day.
Right.
He came on a wagon train.
Yep.
In a wagon train with a whole bunch of other people, including Calamity Jane in 1876, after the town was with that whole group of thousands of people that came for the gold rush. He was part of that wagon train.
Yeah, he was one of the best gunfighters in the West. His reputation kind of preceded him. He did come on a wagon train into Deadwood in 1876. He was a wild drunk. Would drink
Shocker.
A lot. I found some interesting stories about how him and Calamity Jane, well, it sounds like Calamity Jane really thought that they were a couple or wanted to be a couple. I think they got along quite well, but there was nothing to confirm that, which I think is interesting.
I think there's something to be said about at least her her attachment to him, because he died there in Deadwood and was buried in Deadwood and then reburied somewhere else. And then when she was years later, she left, but she came back and died in Deadwood and was buried near him. So I think she knew she was probably dying and wanted to be close to him. So, or that's what I'm telling myself in this little love story. this really weird love story.
In the movie and the TV show, I think I'm getting the characters right. I think she was into girls.
Oh.
Well, I mean...
That might be made for TV. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be made for TV. She was like a crazy gunslinging lady herself, so I'm sure people thought she was into ladies. You see a butch like that and you're like, oh, she must be lesbo, right?
She wore pants.
Will you go to the next picture? It might be down the way a little bit.
She was kind of a butch, right? Like, just wore pants.
So, I have a couple
hung out with the
Calamity
boys.
Jane. Keep going. We'll come back to those.
Okay. You tell me when to stop for this.
I will.
When you see the
okay,
butch,
here we
there
go.
she is.
Yeah, go back one. We'll go back one more.
Back one more.
Go back one more.
One more.
Oh, sorry. There she is.
Okay. Yeah, so she Calamity Jane, man, she's somebody I would have loved to have known. It's just, they called her one of the rowdiest and most adventurous women in the Wild West.
In the what's the Yellowstone 1883?
Yeah.
In the TV show 1883, the main character girl is very similar.
Oh, really?
To her. I mean, just in spirit,
Except
I think.
She's pretty.
Except for she's very beautiful. But in spirit, just kind of wild, free, and wanting to do whatever the guys are doing, you know?
She likes to wear pants.
Yeah, so she was a frontiersman, a professional scout, would scout out different areas of the Wild West, known for being a very close friend to Wild Bill Hickok and appearing in the Buffalo Bill Wild West show, which was one of those traveling, theater shows that went through, all over the U.S. She was born Martha Jane Canary, and she would later grow up to look and act like a man. Shoot like a cowboy, drink like a fish, and exaggerate the tales of her life to any and all who would listen. She loved the outdoors and began riding horses at an early age. By the time, let's see here. She had to start taking care of her siblings because her parents died very early on. And so she would really kind of take any kind of job that would help provide for her family. She worked as a cook, a nurse, a dance hall girl, a dishwasher, a waitress, an ox team driver, and according to some tales, a prostitute.
I was going to say, was she a prostitute?
Yeah. They say she did work at one of the brothels towards the end of her life when she came back to Deadwood, but they say
go to that next picture.
This one? Oh,
this would be during the brothel days.
Put her skirt on. Wow.
Yeah, I know that's her in a dress, but she looks pissed. She's like, I am over this.
But she looks happy in the other one. She's got a cute little smirk on her face.
Yeah, the one on the right is when she, like a couple of months before her death. That's Wild Bill Hickok.
That's wild. Yeah, that's his grave.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think she just really loved him.
Maybe they were just best friends. Either way, they had a connection of some kind with each other.
They did. I mean, I think she saw a lot of herself in him, and likewise, right? It could not be easy if you're thinking about this, settling the West, coming upon so many different conflicting ideas about who owns what land and land settlement and land deeds and the natives who've been there for millennia. You would have to really know who you were, right?
Before drinking, after drinking. She's like, yeah, got my hat. I'm good.
Yeah, she was.
It took a special kind of person to live and be actively pioneering, I think, back then. And
yeah, she was said to have one of the best sharpshooter shots of anybody, men, women combined. Like, she was so good, which is so interesting. I read she beat Wild Bill in bowling and never got over it. That's good. That's good, Jackal. I like that.
All right. Well, what other characters do we know?
Several here. Let's see.
Who are these folks?
one of them, Wild Bill.
Wild Bill Hickok. Yeah, let's talk
Yeah,
about
the one
him.
with the flat brim there is Wild Bill.
Wild Bill Hickok. Yeah, so here's
The
a
second one?
picture from the early days. Yeah, he's the one second from the left. Yeah, boy, they had quite the fashion. It's quite
Definitely
interesting.
statements. Statement hats.
Yeah, I know. The hats are quite interesting.
Yeah, they do look like a band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A band of gunslingers.
Wild Bill Hickok, better known as Wild Bill, was a wagon master, soldier, scout, lawman, gunfighter, gambler, showman, and actor, well known in the American West. He came in with the wagon train into Deadwood, and his reputation as being a gunfighter really preceded him. What's interesting is he made a prediction that he was going to die in Deadwood. I don't know if you guys had heard that, but he was telling somebody, I don't remember who he was, that he feels like his days are numbered. My sun is sinking fast. I know I shall be killed here. Something tells me I shall never leave these hills alive. And on August 2nd, sitting at the gambling table at Nuttall and Mann's 66 Saloon in Deadwood, he was shot in the back of the head by Jack McCall.
Do you think he had a premonition?
Yeah, I know. I
That's what
think
it
that's
sounds
so
like.
interesting. Yeah, I think that's so interesting.
Guns
Yeah.
and mustaches. The band.
He was
I know, some of these
holding
comments are hilarious.
he was holding a pair of eights and a pair of aces when he was killed, which would forever be known as Dead Man's Hand.
Oh,
Is that a thing? Okay, you poker
yeah,
players.
it is.
Tell me, is that a thing? Dead Man's Hand?
Yeah.
I've never heard of
Well,
that.
it's called that because he died with that hand in his hand.
Well, I know, but
Yeah,
is
that's
that
what she
it
okay?
wasn't
That is.
anything before that.
Or
It wasn't. It wasn't anything spectacular. Okay, it's
No.
all right. Well, I don't know when did poker? When was the
CC
inception of
guns.
poker? Right.
The brothel boys.
Oh, the comments are just like
good.
killing
The
me right
brothel
now.
boys.
I like Wild Bill and the Wacky Wagoneers.
Foghorn Leghorn cover band.
I say,
Oh my gosh, you guys, that's come up with the best name. That's hilarious.
My favorite was maybe Guns and Mustaches. Or the Grateful Deadwoods.
Oh, that's good. Yes, that's really good.
Yeah. The
So
one guy's Dwayne Allman.
I think what I love the most is the very prominent mustaches. I mean, look back to Seth Bullock's picture. He's like, it covers like his whole face.
Mm-hmm.
It's really quite.
They knew how to
fascinating.
mustache back then. I don't know what the point of it was.
Yeah.
Like, was it just a look, or did they do it for some sort of purpose?
It had to be just been a look. I don't know the purpose of that.
I like a mustache, so.
Oh, you do?
yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy, here
I'm
we
a
go.
fan.
Let's get into these. to mustache or not mustache?
I think this might be why I like the look of mustaches though, because I have like I really am drawn to the Wild West sort of period, and yeah.
Oh, there he goes.
It's like, where'd you kick me out for?
Oh my gosh. That's good. So here's the interesting thing about Wild Bill Hickok. When people think of Deadwood, South Dakota, that's really who they think of. A lot of times they think about that. Him and Calamity Jane. The day after he was shot, they held his funeral. The entire population of Deadwood, prospectors to prostitutes, followed his funeral procession to Boot Hill. On the same day, a jury panel was selected to try Jack McCall, who's the guy that killed him, point blank.
Why did he kill him?
McCall claimed he had shot Wild Bill in revenge for killing his brother back in Abilene, Kansas, and maintained that he would do it all over again given the chance in less than 2 hours. Less than 2 hours. I mean, think about this. This goes so fast. He kills him, and the next day there's a funeral, and then the next day there's the jury the trial. Yeah. 2 hours, the jury returned
acquitted him.
Yeah, not guilty verdict that evoked this comment in the local newspaper. Should it ever be our misfortune to kill a man, we would simply ask that our trial may take place in some of the mining camps of these hills. McCall headed out to Wyoming, but less than a month later, the trial was found to have no legal basis because Deadwood was located in Indian Territory. He was then arrested in Laramie, Wyoming on August 29, 1876 and charged with murder and taken to Yankton, South Dakota to stand trial. Later, he was found guilty in the spring of 1877, and he was hanged for the murder of Wild Bill Hickok and then placed in an unnamed grave somewhere around there. And I heard there's only like, I don't know, there were only 3 people at the time that knew that. Still don't know where it is.
No.
I think the first trial, right? You've got a group of just crazy miners, and the logic is, did he deserve it? And they say, yeah. Well, then he's not guilty, right? He deserved it, not guilty. Go ahead, sir.
I think it's so fascinating. This lawless town creating this trial, and they're like, hell no, he's not guilty. Send him on his way. I'm like, what? Who is creating? I mean, if you think
about it. I was very like, an eye for an eye. Sorry, you deserved it. See you later.
I mean, this was after our country was founded, but you are, everyone's is entitled to a fair and just trial, right?
Like, a speedy one too, especially.
A fair and just trial in a lawless land. I think that's so funny. That is so funny to me. Like, wow. No wonder people had their heyday in Deadwood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have a poll in.
Yeah.
Have you been to Deadwood, South Dakota? 50 votes. 86% said no.
No.
14% have been there.
Cool. Yeah, it's a neat place if you find yourself traveling by way of the Black Hills of South Dakota. Definitely make your way there. I think, like Mrs. Movie said, there's a lot to see there. The Mount Rushmore's in the Black Hills. What's that big monument being built? It's been being built
Crazy
Horse.
Crazy
Horse. Thank you. Since 1920.
And then the Battle of Little Bighorn. There's tons of national parks.
Yeah, the Badlands are there.
Yeah, Devil's Tower in Wyoming is only like 2 hours from there. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it Sturgis? If you guys are into, it's a really boring town when the motorcycles aren't there, but when they're there, it's kind of wild. So, you guys are really excited for this brothel conversation, aren't you?
That's a lot of mustache rides.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, let's go back to the
slides.
Okay, so this character right here, Al Swearingen. This guy was really scary. So he arrived in May of 1876, even before a lot of the big
Bill.
Yeah. And this particular place is called the Gem Variety Theater. So they had a lot of like traveling theater shows that would either come through or stay put. But this guy knew exactly what he was doing. So he was not a miner. He came into the area, and by the end of that week in May, he had a temporary dance hall, in quotes, set up. He arrived with his wife Nettie, who soon left him in September and later divorced him, claiming spousal abuse. And he would marry 2 more times, also resulting in divorce with similar abuse claims. So in 1877, he opened up this Gem Variety Theater that is described as being neat and tastefully arranged as any place of its kind in the West. It provided entertainment with comedians, singers, dancers, as well as a display of prize fights.
Oh, Shadow Vessel said, is this supposed to be the main guy from the show, Deadwood?
I don't know if he did have a part in the Deadwood show. Yes. I don't know if he was the main guy, though. I haven't seen it. But I did look up the characters in the Deadwood show, and yes, he is in the same
stash.
They have the same stash, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But everyone had stashes, so.
That's right. Who could? It was probably Seth Bullock that you saw in the. He was probably.
He and Bullock are the main two, is what Mark says.
Yeah, the other guy, not Bullock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, the theater was mainly a masquerade for its primary purpose as a brothel, which soon gained a huge reputation for debasing the women who were pressed into service there. So he started I think this is really interesting. He started recruiting women from the East, by the East Coast of the United States, right? Think about it. This is the middle of the United States where Deadwood is. He started advertising jobs in the East for work in hotels and promising them that they would be, these huge stage performers in the theaters, purchasing one-way tickets for the women.
Turns out you're just going to be hookers.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
and I'm going to be your pimp.
Can you imagine?
Yikes.
I mean, think about this, though. Women, like they were looking for the promise as well. I would imagine that a lot of these miners maybe were younger men, probably not married. Probably not. I mean, I'm guessing they probably didn't bring their wives with them. Some of them did, I think. But anyways, he would purchase a one-way ticket for these women. They would arrive and find themselves stranded, right, in this tiny little town in the middle of the United States with no choice but to work for him or be thrown on the street. Some of them were so desperate that they committed suicide. Rather than be forced into basically slavery. Those who stayed were known to sport constant bruises and other injuries.
Shame on him.
Oh yeah, just a real jerk. So what's interesting is the saloon. So let's go to the next picture. So here's kind of like an inside look at the saloon.
That's cool.
You had your modern day bouncers. He's there behind the bar. You can see him.
I noticed that stash again.
Yeah, the stash, right? Women charged customers 10 cents for a dance, 20 cents for a beer, and $1 for a bottle of wine. As to the other charges, it remains unknown. So the interesting thing, what they call the women, so there were 90% of the women in Deadwood were what they call painted ladies. You guys heard this term?
Yes.
No, I don't think so.
The painted ladies were the people that worked, the women that worked in the brothels. So this Gem Variety Theater would earn somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a night. Okay. Do you know how much that is in today's money?
$275,000.
$150 to $300,000
Yeah.
a night. So he would let the money,
That's
really
lots of money.
drive. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is. So what's interesting is the Deadwood didn't have, there was nobody governing. Seth Bullock moved into town and started governing the town, but there was no jurisdiction in this town. So prostitution was legal by whoever's standards. When Seth Bullock moved in, a lot of people had questioned him. Why did he not put more rules in place? And he said there was kind of this deal between Bullock and Swearingen to draw an imaginary line down Main Street that marked what was referred to as the Badlands from the rest of the town. So the brothels were in the Badlands, and then everything on Lower Main Street was where the brothels were, and then Upper Main Street is where Sheriff Bullock controlled. So the banks, the hardware store. And
so the Badlands remained lawless, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And then they just didn't really speak of it, and away they went. Yeah. So what's interesting is why I don't know, I guess.
I imagine Swearingen would just have had Bullock killed if he didn't agree to the terms and allow him to continue his business. I also wonder if there's, Swearingen, maybe it was providing some sort of reimbursement,
maybe paying him off, you think?
Yeah.
Paying
him off or giving him some sort of cut for the rest of the town. I don't know.
I think he created such a horrible stir in the town of Deadwood because in the early summer of 1879, the Gem Variety Theater had, but they were able to repair whatever was damaged. And then just 3 months later, there was another fire. But the entire town of Deadwood was leveled, essentially. It burned 300 buildings, including the Gem Theater. But he rebuilt again. When you're making $300,000 a night, he rebuilt again.
Absolutely.
But then it was about 10 years later that they had its final destructive fire, and then he left Deadwood for good. But what's interesting is he was not a well-liked man. He had a twin brother named Lemuel, and he was attacked in 1904 after leaving his meat market with $200 in his pocket. He suffered a blow to the head and was shot 5 times, but was not robbed. He was found unconscious the next day and seen by doctors, but died without regaining consciousness 8 days later. Al Swearingen left Iowa and eventually made his way to Denver, Colorado at about the same time. Less than 2 months later, on November 15th, 1904, he was also found dead on the street near his home. He too had been struck on the head with a heavy blunt object. At the time, the Denver City Police could not determine if his death was caused by an accident or murder. Later reports said he died penniless while trying to hop a train.
Well, the gold rush, it really ended by 1890. It was pretty much over. So there was only that 20 year period, 24 years, not even 10.
There's no more gold left?
15 years where the gold rush was really happening. So yeah, Swearingen, it would make sense that he would make his money, and then by the time the gold rush sort of ended, everybody moved out. So they went from 10 to 20,000 people in this town to just 2,000 people. After the gold rush kind of died down. So his business was over. He was ready to move on.
Though, even the thing about the prostitution and the brothels, though, is even with the gold rush being primarily over, that still was thriving after most of the people left.
Until 1980.
Right.
Which actually around here too, brothels were a thing here until the 80s as well. They were
Really?
less known, but I know that I heard lots of stories about public health treating the brothel workers for STDs and things like that, doing STD tests and treatments for them up until the 80s. So,
women, this is interesting because women had a hard time making a living, right? Back then. But I really think about when women entered the workforce. They entered the workforce a lot earlier on than we think they did, right?
This was the workforce. Yeah, right. I mean, lots of them prided themselves in their prostitution efforts. Like, they were real businesswomen in some cases. Lots of women owned brothels.
Well, Calamity Jane did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did down in either Rapid City or Spearfish, South Dakota.
Yeah, I think it was more common for a woman to own and run a brothel than it was for a man, actually. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of these miners would pay, I think this is interesting, in gold dust. They would come in, be forced to buy a drink. They would sell dances. Some of them would watch these shows, and then they would pay for whatever sort of acts they're performing and pay in gold dust. Some of them would be robbed and some of them wouldn't. They also had there was a big drug opiates issue and problem.
Opium. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I read about that. That was crazy.
Laudanum and morphine. Laudanum being the most often used. Suicides were also common in the camp.
They also had a Chinatown.
They did, yes.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, there was about 400 Chinese people that moved to Deadwood during kind of the height of Deadwood. And they really had a hard time establishing themselves as their own culture.
I'm sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So despite state laws forbidding prostitution, no city ordinance was ever passed in Deadwood to outlaw the practice. And for decades, the prostitution business went on with little interference. Only briefly did they close in 1952. But they continued to prosper until 1980 when the FBI raided them. And the rumors was because they had heard girls as young as 14 were being sold by biker gangs.
Yikes.
Somebody said they're still going on in Vegas.
They're legal in Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, they are?
Sorry, they're legal in Nevada. Yeah.
Oh.
I think they have to be outside the city limits. I'm pretty sure. I don't think there are any within the city of Las Vegas. Yeah.
Some of the names that they've come up with. The painted ladies. Ladies of the line, sporting women, soiled doves, daughters of sin, the fallen frails, doves of the roost, nymphs du prairie, scarlet ladies, fallen angels, frail sisters, fair bells, painted cats.
I've heard of scarlet ladies.
It just makes me think, like, I know that they were coming and trying to maybe start a better life themselves, but what a hard way to start your life. And maybe they didn't think that. That's from my perspective.
Well, I mean, for some of them, maybe it was not ideal, a forced sort of situation or a desperation sort of situation. And maybe for some of them, it was like a sexual revolution, like.
Why do you say that?
Well, I just think that oftentimes there are lots of women who really enjoy the act of sex, and why not, if you're good at it and you really enjoy doing it with multiple people,
I can't
why
imagine.
not make a living at it?
I cannot imagine that they are in that because they love it. They're in it because they're
what about porn stars now? Same sort of situation, right? Like most of them are not being forced to be porn stars.
It's the money.
They're selling their
the money.
Exactly. Same thing.
They don't love it. I cannot imagine people are like, I love this and I'm doing it for the money. It's the money. They're paying the bills.
Okay, so maybe they don't love it, but it's something that they want to do because they're making very good money at it. It's interesting.
I wonder what they did for birth control.
That's a good question.
Lambskin.
Lambskin? Wow.
I bet they had all sorts of tinctures, don't you think? Tinctures and probably a lot of I don't know, what are those things called? The flushes.
Detox?
Douching?
Douching, thank you, douching. Yeah. Uh-huh. I bet that was a lot of it.
Douching does that?
Well, in theory, they're washing out all of the semen, so nothing will implant.
So I've been thinking about these painted ladies and thinking about all of the men. Oh dear.
He's probably not wrong. He's not wrong. I'm sure that's what's going on. Yeah.
Right. But thinking about everybody's looking to make a cut, right? And they're coming to this town, 90% men. It's just an interesting industry. I don't know. It's no different than the brothels today or prostitution today. I get that. It just feels almost outlandish to me. They were, I don't know, the women just seemed as if they were really objectified. But maybe they weren't. I don't know. I mean, a lot of them came there unknowingly. I mean, can you imagine an 18-year-old girl like, oh, I'm going to go and work on the variety show, and then
that's the sad part of it. Yeah.
But they had these places everywhere. Everywhere there was these little Wild West towns that popped up. Mm-hmm. The second story was a brothel.
Prostitution is the oldest career, right?
The saloon, the saloon was on the bottom level and the brothel was on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Sex sells.
From the beginning of time. From the beginning of time, sex has been selling.
I wonder if it helped keep things a little bit under order there in Deadwood.
I think that's part of the reason that's part of the reason why brothels are so important in situations like that, right? Like, you've got the alcohol that, I don't know, makes them sleepy. And then the prostitutes that help put them to bed too, it's just everybody's trying to just calm the men's testosterone.
Somebody made a comment about it prevented them from burning the place down.
Did everyone hear that? Okay, cool. She said, I pooped, Mommy.
Go watch your shows.
I did not hear him.
Oh, it wasn't me.
Okay, let's look at this one.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me, I guess.
Marine Corps, a whole lot of female workers stuck around the base, damn near like they were on the hunt. Old West probably was not much different.
Or like the red light district in, is that it? Red light?
Netherlands, yeah. The Netherlands.
Or
Amsterdam, yeah.
Hamsterdam?
Hamsterdam?
Let's go back to our slideshow. I have a couple of painted ladies up there for you guys. Oh, this is Mount Moriah. This is where Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane are both buried, along with several other characters of Deadwood. I thought this was interesting, though.
Did you go there when you went to Deadwood?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
You did? Cool.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, it's
the
an interesting place. For someone who doesn't like cemeteries.
It didn't bother me too much. It's like in the middle of town. Like you're driving through town and there's this, like, it's not off in some weird back county road, you know. It's nicely done.
Yeah.
So here are some of the painted ladies of Deadwood. The lady on the right looks like she's in one of those hair dryers.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking it's like she's in a cone, but she's not. It's just her hat in the frame.
Yeah, they look happy.
They look happy, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking, though? You know, you think about the modern prostitution. It doesn't take much to get out of your clothes. I mean, how long would it take these lovely ladies to get out of their clothing? She probably has a petticoat under that, and she's probably buttoned up 18 times in the back. And
there's a lot of foreplay going on.
Yeah, no doubt.
I wonder if they paid by the hour. Do they pay by the hour?
So the one in the middle is Dora Dufran. She was Madam Dora Dufran. She was one of the most famous, the Black Hills leading madame. She was a businesswoman, though. She knew what she was doing. She came in for the business. She was an immediate success once she arrived in Deadwood. She actually continued to build her business as soon as she had branch houses. Kind of, I would imagine, like another branch of a bank, right? Mm-hmm. In Sturgis, Rapid City, and Belfouche. She married a man named Joseph Dufran after moving to Deadwood, and he was a gentleman gambler who was not bothered by her profession, but actually helped her grow her business. She became a friend to and an employer to Calamity Jane, who sometimes worked as a prostitute. One of Dora's most popular houses was called Diddlin' Dora's in Belfouche on Fifth Avenue.
Diddlin'. That's just a funny word.
It advertised itself as the 3Ds, dining, drinking, and dancing. A place where you can bring your mother. And though the Cowboys frequented the popular place, most just wanted to get down to business. With at least one man remarking, "I wouldn't want my mother to know I had ever been there." She's buried in Mount Moriah next to her husband. Her obituary in the Black Hills Pioneer mourned the passing of a noted social worker. Isn't that interesting?
A social worker?
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, she was probably listening to a lot of problems in her day, don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like when you go to the hairdresser, they have to listen to everything, right?
Yeah, they're like therapists. Yeah. I can only imagine that a social worker is kind of an appropriate term.
A noted social worker. Yeah.
That's so funny.
I love that. She getting down to brass tacks here.
Some of the comments.
Put them up there. Let's read them.
Oh, some of them are hilarious, and some of them are like, "Oh gosh, Babe Ruth in a dress."
Right?
Leave your boots on and get a squishing.
Oh my God, you guys, I should not have drank before you said that. Wow.
I mean, it does make you wonder, do you think they got fully undressed, or do you think they probably were just lifting skirts, you know?
I mean, I'm curious about women who weren't in the trade. Did you have a place in a town like this if you were just coming through to visit?
I'm sure not. I'm
Yeah.
sure not.
They would probably run out pretty quick. Like, honey, you don't belong here. Get the hell out.
Yeah. Oh no. This one. Lift and lay.
Thanks.
Oh boy. They actually have a brothel museum in Deadwood. I didn't go.
You did?
No, I did not. It honestly is. It's not super appealing to me. I don't know. I mean,
That's probably one of the first places I would go, actually.
That tracks. That tracks.
What if you figure your wallet, what do they make you do to pay for the tour? They can't have you watch this.
Do they give me a little card of who I can follow in this? No, but anyways, it has it set up historically as they would imagine this brothel to be back in the day. You can look at pictures online. It's interesting.
Oh, Jamie has a good point. The upstairs working girls were probably just in their slips, and the downstairs women were probably dressed to the nines, right?
A good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good point. They weren't dressed like the people in these pictures. I'd imagine that would be.
Oh, this was them at their best here, you know?
And they had
She's
to,
wearing
they wanted to get people in and out, right? Like,
It was like take a number kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Get them in, get them done. Let's move to
the more
next
people you can
effort.
lay, the more money you make, for sure.
Yeah. Buying drinks, selling sex, get them in and out. Let's go to the next picture.
Could you imagine going there? Everything is still sticky.
Oh yeah, I know. Honestly, Rick, that is really why I don't have a huge desire to go in the museum.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how much you cleaned it. Oh, yeah, no, thank you.
Just take your black light.
Uh-oh.
Oh God, yeah. Do we have an empty? Is that it?
Yeah, and there were no showers back then, right? Like, they were bathing in tubs if they walked water up to their rooms. Like,
well, okay, I read in the early days of Deadwood, before the brick and mortar buildings, this was happening in the tents.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, in the tents.
That was gross. Robo-necks. Bunch of ancient loads.
Where this has gone south real fast.
I've got a teenage boy's sense of humor, so it's just like really working for me. It makes me laugh so hard.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have any paranormal stories?
No, there's like no freaking paranormal shit that happened here except for in the hotel. I was like so disappointed at like my research on paranormal for Deadwood. The history of it is super interesting, but the paranormal is lackluster.
So let's go to keep going.
What is this?
Okay, so that is saloon number 10. So,
the bar.
They
That's where
say
he
this
was
is
shot.
Wild Bill's death chair. I highly doubt that. It burned to the ground, you guys. I just love how they sensationalize things, you know, like, woo. But there's a lot of just weird stuff in this place. We went in this place. It was, interesting. But I thought it was interesting. The Wild Bill's death chair. Ooh, how cool.
Don't touch the
This
ground.
is turned into don't touch the grounded guidance. Don't touch the ground. It's sticky.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
People.
You guys, I don't know if I would have been a very good pioneer. There are days that I think I would be, and then there's days like this that I would have been like.
I think pioneering from a mining standpoint and pioneering from like a farming, ranching standpoint are very different types of pioneering. Still requiring the same sort of like gusto to make it happen, but different personality styles in the living situation, I think.
I think think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right.
Ugh. The paranormal event. The bed's still squeaking.
On a quiet night in the summer, you can still hear the bed squeaking.
I was going to take you to, so let's see here. Yeah, this one, Wild Bill Bar and Trading Post. So they say this is the actual location where Wild Bill Hickok was shot. And when you go in, they have it all kind of set up as they thought it would have been in the back, where there's a fairly decent sized table, a round table with mannequins sitting around the table as they, have it laid out in the way that they thought he was shot. But again, this burned to the ground, so it's not as if this is historically accurate. But some say that the spirit of Wild Bill never left the area, which, it may be true. I'm not sure. I didn't really feel anything in here. It was kind of like, no. It just, a lot of places in Deadwood really capitalize on what it was, and it's neat. It's very, the architecture and the buildings are really, they're neat. It's a neat place, and it's kind of a one main street town, and there's a lot to see, a lot of gambling. But
did you feel any paranormal like things when you went to the Bullock Hotel?
Yeah, I remember it being. Yeah, yes.
Energy there.
I don't have any specific stories, but I felt uneasy there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not in a bad way. Just there was some activity happening there for sure.
It's kind of a creepy looking building too.
Yeah, it is. This one, there's just, I don't know, there's just a lot of people, and it's, but
the building is made of sandstone. Is sandstone a conductor of any sort of energies?
The
Bullock
really
hotel. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh yes, Jamie's right. One wonders about the surrounding wilderness.
Well,
yeah, with the mines and all of the minerals in the earth there, you would think that there would be some different energies there than other places.
So we went to the south, or to this area, for a reunion several years ago, family reunion. We stayed in Lead, which is the bordering town of Deadwood. And I did not sleep real well at night at all. Woken up multiple times a night. There's a lot of unrest for sure. We didn't stay right in Deadwood, but yeah, I know that it's interesting. I know that the surrounding area, I know is it the Homestake Mine, Mrs. Movies? That's right.
Yes.
In Lead.
Mm-hmm.
You should talk about what you found about Homestake Mine.
Well, I was actually really interested in that. So it was purchased in 1877. The mine itself was purchased, and they then named it the Homestake Mine. It was purchased by George Hearst for $70,000.
Wait, was it Hearst, the big newspaper guy out in California?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
It is the deepest, longest operating, most profitable gold mine in the Western Hemisphere, which I thought was really interesting. And it operated up until 2000 it closed in the 1940s during World War II because of the war. They didn't need gold. Instead, they turned the mining company into a manufacturer of hand grenades for the war, which was pretty cool. And then it opened back up after the war, and it didn't close until technically like 2004 when it was purchased by the Science and Technology Authority. And I kind of went into a little bit of a deep dive there, and it has connections to CERN.
Yeah, all this sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be, but some of the research that I saw has connections to CERN, and they were turning the mine into an underground laboratory.
Yeah, what are they doing under there? That's just really,
I don't know, a deep underground laboratory. And then I read some words that said dark matter mines, like they were mining dark matter,
like black hole stuff.
Yeah, like weird things. And then they lost their funding in 2010, and the mine has not been operating, or the laboratory has not been operating since then, apparently. But I don't know if I believe that.
Can we visit it?
I don't think so.
So we can't visit either.
Anyways, that's what I thought the mine was interesting, just because then they went into this dark matter situation. I'm like, ooh, what does that mean? Some sort of weird time travel shit.
Yeah, what is that? I did read that mine still has so much gold to mine, but it's so deep within the earth
they can't reach it or something. Yeah. Or they were digging down so deep and they ran into dark matter, and then they were like, we don't mine anymore now. It's a laboratory.
That destroys the laws of physics for me. What do you mean they ran into dark matter? I mean, we are like dense humans on planet Earth. Like, what? Huh?
Maybe there's like a giant portal down there or something.
Oh. Stranger Things.
Maybe, yeah, maybe it's the upside down. Maybe it's what's Godzilla's Hollow Earth. Maybe they reached like Hollow Earth or some shit like that.
Wait, what is CERN?
Yeah, remind me what CERN is again. Somebody told us.
Large Hadron Collider.
It's like an international science and technology company, right?
Like NASA, right?
Right, except for they're into like even weirder shit. They fund particle colliders and things like that.
It's the reason the Mandela effect exists.
CERN messed with something and it jolted all of our timelines.
So wait, speaking of conspiracy theories, Mr. Movies, you should put a poll up about.
Oh, good segue, right?
Boom.
I have the Q&A going.
Well, no, we weren't going to do a poll. We were going to just ask, I think.
Oh yeah,
right?
Q&A. Sorry.
It was Q&A.
I have the Q&A going right now. People said JFK. Two people said JFK is conspiracy, and then another person said the plan. Obsolence.
Never heard of it.
Obsolete. I don't know that word. How years ago things would last for 100 years, but now they only last for 5-10 years.
Like your washing machine and your dishwasher and your
You used to make things to last. Why do things not last anymore?
What's that called again?
Money.
Isn't that just basic economy? Like,
I don't know how to pronounce the word.
Supply and demand. Like, we can't spend money if we don't need things.
But it's base word's obsolete. So obsolescence? That doesn't seem like a word. That doesn't
Obsolescence?
Obsolescence.
Maybe?
Yeah.
That sounds like maybe it's a word.
I have never heard of that.
Obsolescence. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie.
Obsolescence.
See, I try to say it as obsolete, and then I was like, obsolescence.
Yeah, that one. All right.
Dogs used to live for 70 years.
That sounds like a made-up word.
So that was it? There was no other suggestions?
Nope, only 3. Oh, there's another one that just came in. I think because I said something, people are like, oh, there's a Q&A.
Yeah. Oh, good. Throw us your you're interesting.
Oh, another RFK's assassination.
Oh.
Oh.
How about just the Kennedys? Period.
Yeah, the Kennedy
right?
conspiracy.
So let's get back to Deadwood and the surrounding area. So for those of you that have been there, there's a lot happening in the Black Hills. You've got Deadwood, you've got Mount Rushmore, that was a planned monument. You've got the Badlands, which I learned. This is really interesting. So I went to the Badlands like 27 years ago for the first time. And it's named Theodore Roosevelt National Badlands Monument or whatever. Didn't know that he had any say in that. But Theodore Roosevelt was the mayor of Medora, North Dakota before he became president of the United States. He was the mayor. And he actually was a friend of Seth Bullock, the guy who brought order to Deadwood. A very good friend of him.
That doesn't surprise me at all, actually.
Yes, yeah. And isn't Teddy Roosevelt one of the people on the big monument?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's my favorite president.
Oh, is he? Yeah. So he has like strong ties to the area, very strong ties.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think
he was a pioneer himself.
He was, yes. Big in the national parks, putting roots and funding down for the national parks.
So many national parks when he was in office. The Wind Cave National Park is there too. Did you hear about the Wind Cave?
No.
It's apparently like one of the largest cave systems in the Northern Hemisphere or something like that.
Okay, well, what about it? Do you go underground or something?
Yeah, but something like that. I don't really know. I didn't look into it. I just saw it. I was like, oh, cool. That's interesting.
Huh.
Not interesting enough to like research, but.
Have you been to Mount Rushmore?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I went there. I was a part of this whole Yellowstone trip when we were kids. So it was. Okay. I loved Mount Rushmore. Loved it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. What's this? Michael James. There's a tunnel behind the carvings of Mount Rushmore. What's going on there? Well, they may have had to build the tunnel when they built
to get to and from.
Yeah. Well, and when they were carving everything.
Yeah, exactly. You had to get up that mountain somehow.
I know that's
Team America's base is there.
Team America's base. Richie Rich has it. Oh no, that's not Mount Rushmore. That's his parents' Mount Rushmore. Never mind.
Yeah, it's a place to see for sure. If you haven't been there.
Wait, sorry, this is random, but.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
Conspiracy theory?
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh, throw that one up there.
Transport UFOs. Okay, so speaking of caves, let's sidebar for a second. Not caves, tunnels. I was watching the spin-off show for Skinwalker Ranch this past week. And they
shit, did that start?
It's been going on what, 6 weeks now?
Oh, okay.
So they were down in Sedona, Arizona, and there is this ranch, the Bradshaw Ranch, that this family owned for years and years and years, and they believe that there's like a portal on the property. Well, the government came in and wanted to buy the property back in, I think, the early 90s to turn it into some sort of nature preserve, or we want to watch some sort of like bird or something. It was just some obnoxious story. Well, they did this spin-off show, where they took, LiDAR scanning, and they were able to find a tunnel that ran from like right through the ranch, through a big portion of one of the kind of outskirts of Sedona, because there's been rumors that there's an underground base out there, and finding these tunnels was kind of a big,
like a
big thing. Yeah. So that was. If you guys haven't seen it, check that out. It's fascinating.
Tunnels are always fascinating to me.
Are they?
Yeah.
They're kind of weird. It's kind of scary.
They're spooky.
Yeah.
this is what Jesse said about the.
That's what the tunnels are.
I would just get really claustrophobic.
Illuminati is another conspiracy.
Oh, Illuminati, yeah, that's a great one.
Or the hidden chamber that's full of government secrets behind Mount Rushmore.
Who said it's a hidden chamber?
National treasure too. Oh no.
Oh, is that from the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But all movies start from some sort of truth, right?
Yeah. Somebody somewhere. Yeah, for sure. So one of the other people I wanted to talk about in Deadwood that I think is really fascinating. I don't think she is on here.
Look at that
This caterpillar.
Oh, this is Seth Bullock. This is him.
Dang.
And this is his businessman Soul Star.
Oh,
So
they
these
didn't
two are
exaggerate his stash enough in there.
Yeah, what is
That
going
is
on? I mean, would you not get so much food in that?
Yeah.
Mr. Movies, I want to see a stash like that.
So it needs like another 2 inches of growth, 1.5 inches of
really
growth. I
tiny to
think.
see his mouth.
If I don't trim it for like
It's
3
over
months,
his
it'll probably
entire
look like that.
mouth.
He's a
I
good
guess if
looking
you
guy.
didn't like your teeth, you wanted to hide them. That'd be the way to do it.
I think it looks intimidating. Don't you think?
It's a statement, that's for sure.
I think you'd get so much food in that mustache.
Yeah, Rick says it's
He
full
ate
of
all his food
soup.
with a straw.
So keep going.
Some of it could be nose hair.
This gal right here. Oh Lord, nose hair. Oh my God. So this gal, Aunt Lou Marchbanks, they believe she was the first Black woman in the Black Hills. So not just in Deadwood, but anywhere in the Black Hills. She was actually born a slave in Putnam County, Tennessee. She belonged to a slave owner named Martin Marchbanks, whose father had settled east of Allgood, Tennessee. So she arrived in Deadwood in June of 1876 and soon found work as the kitchen manager at the Grand Central Hotel. She was more than just a friendly face with good cooking talent. She was also a tough manager and brooked no intimidation from her customers. One day she proved that when a Mexican man came into the restaurant boasting that he had killed an Indian and acting as though he'd like to kill someone else. As the nervous customers looked on, Aunt Lou soon confronted him while brandishing a large knife, and in no time the stranger took his leave. Her legendary cooking skills became so widespread that the New York Stock Exchange, in discussing a Black Hills mining news article, said, "Who is Aunt Lou?" The Black Hills Daily Times soon answered in a commentary entitled, "We'll tell you who she is," which read, "Aunt Lou is an old respected colored lady who has charge of the superintendent's establishment of the DeSmit mine as a housekeeper, cook, and superintendent of all superintendents who have ever been employed at the mine. Her accomplishments as a culinary artist are beyond all praise. She rules the house where she presides with autocratic power by divine right, brooking no cavil or presumptuous interference."
Dang,
She's a
badass bitch.
Yes. A skillful nurse as well as a fine cook and housekeeper. Her services to the victims of mountain fever never have received infinitesimal part of the praise in which they are richly entitled. So it's been fun to kind of learn about people like that.
That is cool.
Yeah, not part of the brothel, not part of the prostitution trade. She was not a painted lady.
No, she was running shit where she was. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, I would imagine that was, you could not stand by and be meek. I mean, look at Calamity Jane, and a lot of the women in the brothels faced a lot of violence. You know, they had to learn to really stand up for themselves. These were not easy times for a lot of them. They would just get steamrolled otherwise.
Oh yeah, ladies were different back then, for sure.
I'm curious how many of you are going to watch the show? Was it on HBO? I think it was on HBO. Watch the show now. Or how many of you have seen the show?
I'm sure quite a few of our viewers have seen it. But I know that we are going to watch it after we finish something. Justified?
Probably after Justified, yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's
now-
going to be part of your...
Yeah, that'll be part
cool.
of you, me, and the TV. Yep.
Well, now that I've watched the movie and I know what happens, I might go back to the beginning and see how
You
it.
might rewatch it.
Were you bored?
I was just trying to get as much information about this place as possible, and I just couldn't find a lot. So. I went to Hollywood. What pics we got?
Yeah, everyone was hard back then. Nobody had a refrigerator. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think that was the only pictures. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love that. I mean, Deadwood kind of like is the epitome of a Wild West town. It is the thing that Westerns are made of, right? Like, Westerns are made because of the stories that come out of towns just like Deadwood, and I think that's so cool.
They're real outlaws.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, some of them were just really... Yeah, outlaws. That's the good name for them, but they're just like take no prisoners. That kind of attitude is just really, I guess when you are moving through a town that's not governed by anything, you can, do whatever you want whenever you want. Killing people, a murder a day. I mean, that's just out. And I'm sure multiple gunfights a day as well.
Definitely. Definitely. Like, they probably had like a standoff location in the town. Like, here's where you'll do your 10 paces. Please.
Yeah, work it out. Work it out in the streets, right? You're mad at each other, work it out. I mean, think about it though. People get drunk. It's never a good combination.
Well, that's how they handled disputes back then. When there was no law, they just handled it themselves. Good. We will shoot and see who kills.
A gunfight?
Yeah.
The what?
A gunfight. Mr. Movies is familiar with that.
Gotta fan the hammer.
And a cowboy.
Yeah, I think the Old West and the Wild West. There's just
you guys are like Mrs. Movies. You're like Jane, and Mr. Movies is Bill.
Yeah, just a regular old Butch. Really?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Calamity, Jane?
Yeah.
I
I was fanning the hammer.
You guys.
Yeah, Sarah makes a good point. There's something romantic about the outlaw life. You live for yourself. You keep to yourself. You live in peace. Yeah.
This movie's more like Annie Oakley.
Yes, I would agree. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I wonder though, like what you said, Sarah, I wonder how many people could actually live in peace in Deadwood. Right? I mean, could you keep to yourself in Deadwood when you were fighting for your stake of the land, number one, and number two, your stake of what was in the land? But yeah, you
for just a steak.
Or just for steak, is that what you said?
Ha ha. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, and if something didn't go right, guess what? You get on your horse and you move to the next town. I mean,
oh, they were drunk because water was tainted. You're right. There probably wasn't a great water source or a reliable one.
Oh, you know what we didn't really talk about is like the smallpox that went through there.
It did, yeah.
Do you know how many people died?
A lot. I'm not sure how many. They had a mass grave in Mount Moriah, though, for all the people that died from smallpox. So quite a few. But I don't know. I mean, was a mass grave like 10 people, right? I'm sure there were more than that.
Because they used the Bullock Hotel's basement, right, as like a for the sick children.
Oh, like a sanatorium kind of thing? Oh, I hadn't read that.
It was either the basement or the top floor.
I know Calamity Jane really stepped in to help. She kind of put on her nursing hat.
Actually, the prostitutes were also the nurses.
Yeah, they were. I did read that.
You know what? Everyone back then was a nurse because the Civil War had kind of just wrapped, right? Like, so most women had nursing experience in the battlefield, I think. Also, there were no really any doctors, so if you bandaged somebody, you were a nurse, right? You want a Band-Aid? I'm your nurse now.
Well, I don't know. With smallpox, you're probably using a lot of your intuition. Oh, they have a fever. Cool them down, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're sweaty, or they're clammy, or they've got pallor, or, whatever it is. They're probably just using like, oh, open the window.
Their pustules are oozing. What should we do here?
Drain them.
Let's not let anyone else touch them. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't have a number though. I don't know what
Christian said, I refuse to sell my body to someone who's clammy.
Oh, you guys, that just paints some. I mean, think about that. In that small little town, people living in tents, and smallpox breaks out. You think COVID spread fast?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And it was a very
Don't forget the lepers. He's right, the lepers, yeah.
What'd you say, Berly?
It was a very, very narrow town. So the 6 foot rule probably didn't play.
The 6 foot rule. Do you think they had that rule back then?
No.
Guessing your germs were my germs. And I don't think deodorant was invented yet.
Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just a smelly, smelly place. Yeah. That the whole time period, everything was just had to have been very, very smelly.
I wouldn't have time to go with that. I don't.
Yeah, I know that me either. No, the smell, and then you think about the hot days in the Midwest, and then they're slaughtering things to eat. They say that the main street in Deadwood would just be littered with animal carcasses.
Yeah, well, and then you've got everyone's riding horses, so there's shit everywhere also. So I mean, there's like I guess you just got used to weird
horse
smells
probably
everywhere.
smelled better than everything else that was.
I'm sure it was like a welcome reprieve from dead animal carcass.
Well,
you smell the horse shit in the morning,
right? They did not have plumbing, right? Plumbing is like it was a huge shift in the way people lived and the way we, well, yeah, that too, but also how we kept people healthy, right? The being able to flush a toilet
Yeah.
is huge for people's sanitation. So you think about this town that was overflowing with people that were just probably pissing and crapping everywhere.
Yeah, where do you think they shit? Do you think they went or they poop? Sorry.
They probably had outhouses or latrines.
Like a hole,
yeah,
a community hole.
A community
probably.
hole.
Or latrines out back.
I don't know though, you
buildings.
guys. This was a lawless town. You think that they would think to build an outhouse? I mean, come on.
Well, okay, they used to have troughs, right? The latrines that they used to make were like troughs. They put them behind the buildings. People would just go, you sit your ass in the trough and shit, and then everybody's shit's just in these troughs.
So it's like a urinal for pooping?
For everything. For everything.
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that. Huh. A poop trough? That's what it's called?
Essentially, I think that's what it was.
They put it out back of the establishment?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, maybe not in all places, but I'm sure in some.
I guess that's no different than, well, no, this is a little different. Like, back in the Middle Ages in England, they would have their community baths, right? Everybody would bathe in the same water. Oh,
that's God. That's what these prostitutes were doing, right? They probably had one bath that they ran every night, and all
everybody
12,
just get in. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh boy,
they each take their turn. Can you imagine all the shit floating in there? Oh gosh!
Ew, yikes!
Woo! Wow.
Was it a Snickers bar or something? What was that movie?
I mean, can you imagine if anybody had a cut and then you're getting in that cesspool of a bath? I mean, you just have infection beyond. Mm-mm.
There you go. Cholera broke out because the runoffs got into the river water, right? Their drinking water. She who bathes last gets an infection.
Yes, get in that bath first. Get in that bath first. Yes. Yes. We aren't, just be there first in line.
Herpes party.
Oh, you guys. No more.
Wait, this is...
Okay, I want to ask you guys this. Cesspool, South Dakota. Yes.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, we talked about how in July of 1876, $1 million of gold was found at $20 an ounce. Okay. Today, that would be worth $98 million. So knowing that, would you, not take yourself out of your life right now? Is that a life you would pursue? Is that something that you would want a piece of, knowing that there's gold to be had, there's a promise of a new life, there's potentially a chance to own land? Would you go after it?
I think
it's a lot of money.
The mining related pioneering spirit is less interest to me than the stake your land claim pioneering experience.
Homestake.
So I wouldn't necessarily want to stake my claim on a piece of land that I had to mine. I think I'd rather farm it. But that's just obviously my family history sort of situation. So
yeah. Money doesn't really play into that for you.
I think it's not about the money for me, more about just the freedom and
soil, baby.
Yep, to grow something. And
what about you, Berly?
I think the smells would deter me.
What if they recruited you to come work in their theater show, and then you showed up and
to be a prostitute?
Yeah.
This is an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have to have sex with anybody.
Well, Berly, do you know the definition of a prostitute?
Look, but don't touch.
You can just stand and look pretty at the door. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'll just greet everybody.
You would just be the parlor girl. Just the parlor girl.
They had
not
those
the
too.
upstairs
They worked
brothel
on
girl.
they
Just a
worked on
parlor
the
girl.
first level, serving drinks, getting men enticed, and because they
Getting
wanted
them
to
really
spend
drunk
blood.
so that they'd pay good money to have sex
Yep.
with the ugly lady
And it would be
upstairs.
fast. Yeah, and it would be
Yeah,
fast.
I'm a pusher. I could definitely push the alcohol.
I'm glad
push
you
for a good
clarified
time.
Okay, Mr. Movies, would you want to stake your claim in that $98 million?
Yeah.
Would you uproot and leave and go be a prospector? Is that something that would entice you?
I think I could hack it out.
I feel like you could be a Seth Bullock.
What did you say?
You could be Seth Bullock.
Yeah, bringing order to the town.
I'd start a hardware store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see you being like a friend, like on the fringe, but still like a very active, valuable part of the economy in the town, right?
Yeah, like I don't see you being a miner.
No.
But I see you maybe capitalizing on the business opportunities that come along with a mining town or something.
Snake oil salesman.
Oil salesman. You know, for myself, I'm trying to think if I can set everything else aside. Yeah, I mean, I think the American way is to find your piece of whatever, right? Whatever that is, not necessarily gold, but like the American way is to find your little. Berly could be the mop girl.
Show you offended.
That's like the American dream, right? I mean, that's what makes.
Yeah, that exactly. And I think some of the stories out of the Wild West are alarming and frightening, and thinking about who I am today would be, I definitely think that I would be tough enough, but I'm not sure I'd want to live that lifestyle. But you wouldn't know necessarily until you got there, right?
Right.
One-way ticket to.
Yeah. I'm thinking I would be like a fringe dweller in Deadwood, like, oh, let's go set up the museum. Or
well, also with these gold rush situations, it's a limited time sort of situation. Like, going in that you're going to be there 5-10 years maybe. Like, you're going to get your piece of the pie and then you're going to move on with your life. So it's really like how much can you handle in a short period of time? I think anybody could do anything for a few years in a mining town.
They were very, very nomadic, right? Not knowing what the profits would be, not knowing if this was going to be successful. And they get sucked in, and it was rough and rowdy, and then they'd move on. Because the Wild West was still being settled at this point. You know, Lewis and Clark had just done their expedition, not even 50 years prior. So it'd be interesting for sure.
Yeah,
so at the beginning of this, you said this was going to be really boring, Mrs. Movies. Was it as boring as you thought it would be?
No, not at all. I thought we were going to have to be focused on just the paranormal aspects. And I'm like, okay, there's one paranormal place in Deadwood, and that's really annoying. Like, that's boring. But this was an education on just the Wild West, really.
Yeah. A history lesson.
Kind of like history, you guys.
I appreciate history now.
Oh, do you? Why? Why more now?
I just think I'm like at an age where I actually appreciate history. And it took.
It's interesting to you?
Yeah.
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 Cool.
Yeah.
Are there any more polls that we need to know about, Mr. Movies?
Yeah, what did the Q&A come up with?
That's it.
Anything extra?
Nothing new.
Mostly just the Kennedy stuff?
Yep.
Cool.
Kennedy's
we'll put another poll
right now with RFK Jr. running for president, so.
Malaysia flight.
Oh, yeah.
Caves from Arizona to DC. Is that...
Is there a conspiracy around the Malaysia flight?
Wasn't there?
I mean, it just disappeared, so that's suspicious.
So let's tell them what we're gonna do in our poll this week. We are going to put a poll up with 4 conspiracies for you to pick from. So that's why we were asking you. We have a couple of ideas, but we were going to conspiracy theories, I guess I should say. So that's why we were curious if there were ones that were really exciting,
really interesting for you.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for voting on our polls, you guys. We appreciate your interest.
Yeah, helps drive the conversation for sure.
No
Titanic conspiracies.
That's funny. That's the reason why we wanted to do it. We wanted
Titanic conspiracies probably going to be on there.
Oh, please no Titanic conspiracies. Well, this group seems to be very tied to a lot of conspiracy talk. You guys are very interested in that.
We all like curious conversations. That's why we're here, That's what conspiracies are, basically. Curiosities.
Philadelphia experiment.
Oh, that's is that submarine thing?
Ship. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That ship in the harbor that disappeared. They were working on moving time, going back.
Time travel.
Oh. Uh-oh, we just lost her to the Philadelphia experiment.
She's gone. I hope she didn't melt to the side of the wall.
That's...
She might have to.
Invisibility. Cloaking. That's right. Thank you, Jamie. Gosh. Jamie's all over it tonight.
Is that recent?
She's gone.
She's going to have to.
No, this was like during the World War II era, right? World War II era. Are you
back?
She's
back. Oh, the Philadelphia experiment.
Somebody did not want me talking about that.
No shit.
That was weird, you guys. That was
no Philadelphia experiment.
So we gotta put that on the. We gotta put that on the poll.
I think we do. How about Flight 370?
I've never looked into the Philadelphia. I've never seen the movie or anything.
Me either. No, I don't know anything about it except for what we talked about last week on it.
Ooh, that was
Flight
weird.
370.
My head hurts right now. Something's weird is happening. I don't know what something is.
Oh, no. Where's your Faraday cage?
You put your Faraday cage on your head. There you go. You'll feel better in no time.
Okay, a couple of things. This is what I was going to start talking about. We have a email address. We've heard from a couple of you. groundedguidanceyt@gmail.com. Send us your stories, your quips, your suggestions for future podcast episodes. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to do a mailbag episode probably in the next month or two. We are live here every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss a show. We'd love it if you would share with somebody who you think might love our content. And thank you to all of you who show up here each week. We do love engaging with you. And thank you for helping us build our channel. Anything else you guys want to chime in on?
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. This was a fun one.
Yeah.
It was fun. Hold on, I have some
love a
grounded
history lesson.
guidance. Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Even if it wasn't totally paranormal, we got some good history out of it and some fun
Absolutely.
conversations about brothels and painted ladies.
Worth it.
Okay. Our grounded guidance for tonight. Oh, hail. Oh, jeez, you guys, what is happening?
Oh, no.
Okay. I got to get through this. Okay. Oh, hail, oh, weary one. Do not be consumed by the bitterness, the brokenness, and darkness in this world. Find your way to peace and balance and hope. Ground yourself on a daily basis. Separate fact from fiction and do not live in the lawlessness, aka the Wild West of your brain. It is a dangerous place to be. Bring order and conviction and leadership to your sovereignty. Don't accept what shows up and what is not for you. Now, imagine sitting in a room with only a candle as the light. The darkness consumes you and the light evades you. How will you choose to live? How will you not let the demons win? How will you bring order to the court in your head? Grounding balances the energies within. When we don't balance, we are often consumed by polarizing feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And grounding allows you to flush what is not for you. Clear the cobwebs and ground.
Wow.
Amen.
I know some days you just do want to like finish it that way. Like there should be something we say.
Like we're in church. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Amen. Aho. Go forth. Okay.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. All right. Well, hit us in the community poll as soon as we put it up. We'll put it up in a little bit for next week's topic. And look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday at the same time, same place.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.